We do want to say Happy Mother's Day, and I do want to echo Pastor Dan's words. We know it is a bittersweet day for many. There are lots of challenges to this day for those who have struggled to have children, for those who've lost children, for those who've lost mums as well. It can be a difficult day, but I do hope that you'll join with us and celebrate the mums and the ladies that are here today that have an influence on our lives. You may not be a physical mum, but I've had women in my life who haven't had children but have been a big influence and have had just an impact on my life. And I want to honour my own wife, Helen. She's down here. She's here this service, and she is a fantastic mum to our 3 wonderful children, and wonderful because of all that she has poured into them. And despite losing her own mum, probably 14 years ago now, and she was diagnosed with MS 5 years ago, she continues to pour herself out in ways that just stagger me. So thank you. I love you, honey. I appreciate everything that you do. I lost my own mum 5 years ago, and these days are a reminder of that. I miss our phone calls just to be able to call and say, how are you doing, how are things going? But I do remember, even over the years, she pretty much raised me and my brother and sister as a single mum. My dad worked away most of our lives, probably not until my mid-20s he came home to work, and we kind of almost had to get to know him from them. But between that time, my mum pretty much raised all 3 of us and did a fantastic job. I think we turned out pretty well, and both my brother and sister and I are all following the Lord, and we love God with all our hearts. So I appreciate my mum for just praying very hard for us, because I know that she did. And we put it to the test many times, for which I wish I could go back and do those things, but we are here because I know that she prayed much for us. But she taught us a lot of life lessons as well. And she taught us very much things like how to appreciate a job well done. She would say things like, if you're going to kill each other, do it outside, because I've just finished cleaning. She taught me the importance of talking to God. You better pray that comes out the carpet. And how many mothers have such profound logic? Because I said so, that's why. Mums teach us about irony, don't they? I'll give you something to cry about. Well, I'm already crying, I don't want any more. She teaches us the circle of life. I brought you into this world. I can take you out. Fierce words, but very true. She taught us about envy. There are millions of less fortunate people in the world who don't have wonderful parents like you do. And more fierce words. Anticipation. Just wait till we get home. Fearful, fearful words. Sitting in the back of the car all the way home, wondering what's going to happen. And then there's the more profound things like medical science. If you don't stop crossing your eyes, the wind will change and you'll stay like that. I'm not so sure about that one now. Thomas Edison once said, I did not have my mother long, but she cast over me an influence which has lasted all my life. The good effects of her early training I can never lose. If it had not been for her appreciation and her faith at me in a critical time in my experience, I should never likely have become an inventor. I was always a careless boy, and with a mother of a different mental caliber, I should have turned out badly. But her firmness, her sweetness, her goodness were potent powers to keep me in the right path. My mother was the making of me. The memory of her will always be a blessing to me. So true. Ephesians 6, verse 1 and 3 says this, Children, obey your parents because you belong to the Lord. For this is the right thing to do. Are there any children in the house this morning? Oh, yeah, there's a few more than that. Are there any children in the house this morning? Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you were born, you were a child at one point. This is what God says to you. It doesn't say when you kind of stop being, if you're somebody's child, you are still children. Children, obey your parents, because you belong to the Lord, for this is the right thing to do. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise. If you honor your father and mother, things will go well for you, and you'll have a long life on the earth. What an awesome promise. goes back to the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20, and God is saying this is the very first commandment with a promise. And the reason why it will go well with you if you honor your parents and mothers, because they won't kill you. If you honor them. Parents, you understand? You come that close sometimes. And I'm just saying, if you don't honor them, God takes this very seriously. It's a serious command. Honor your father and mother. And we're honoring our mothers this morning, but it's not just today. It's every single day of our lives. Is the way that we have chosen to live our life an honoring thing to our parents, to our mums and our dads? Is the lifestyle that we've chosen something that others will speak well of our mum because of what we've done? Because they'll see the influence that our mum has had in our life and they will honour her because of it. Are we becoming the sons and daughters that we want to see coming up behind us that have that culture of honour? Because I think it's being eroded in our culture today so much. That this whole issue of family is just coming down and down and down, and yet we're not called to that. God calls us to honour our father and mother, to respect them, to love them. And we're going to do that this morning. We're going to have 6 ways. I'm going to give you 6 ways that you can honour your mum today and every day. Not just today, but today and every day beyond this. And the first one is love her unconditionally. That's exactly how she's loved you. She has poured herself into you day after day after day. And I don't care how old you are, she will still be doing that. I want you to love her when she's young, and I want you to love her when she's old. When she has so much to give and constantly lays down her life for you, and when she can't do as much as she would like to for you anymore. She needs to know that she is loved the same way that you need to know that you are loved. Love means respecting her. One of the things I won't tolerate from my children, and it's happened very rarely, but when they start to disrespect their mum, my wife, I will be all up in their face about it. Because there's no need for it at all. When I know what she's done for them and how she's laid her life down for it, they will never get away with it. Second thing you can do is you can hug her affectionately and often. Not just on Mother's Day. And you can do that right now. You can hug your mum if she's next to you. Go on, do it. Love her. Tell her you appreciate her. There's an old bumper sticker that says, have you hugged your kids today? We need one for mums. Mums don't need reminding to hug their kids. It's an automatic part of their love. But as kids, wow, we need reminding so often to hug our mums and tell them how much we appreciate them. It's an expression of love. And not for what they've done for us, not because they've done anything for us or because they've cleaned our room when they asked us to do that, but because we understand how much they have done for us and how much they lay down their lives for us. Compared to how many hugs you've received from your mum, how many have you given? Have you hugged her as often as she hugs you? And when she hugs you, do you hug her back? Or is it like, oh, Mom? Hug her back. You will appreciate it. And if she stopped hugging you, you would feel it. The third thing you can do is you can understand her sympathetically. Understand her sympathetically. I think this is one that we could really work on quite a lot. Women have so many hats to wear. Mums have so many hats to wear. So many demands on them. They're the cook and the cleaner. They're the counsel when things go wrong. Help me, what do I do? They're the beautician and the barber and the budget director. The judge, the jury, the activity director, the one whose love has conquered all of your shortcomings and faith has overcome all of your failures. How many times have they suffered because of the dumb decisions we've made? How much heartache have we caused them? Because we thought we knew better when we had no idea what we were doing. You know how much closer to God's love is the love of a mum. So sacrificial, so understanding, so there for us when we need it. And you know, there's an old phrase, a mother's work is never done. And we often say, oh yeah, we know. But it's so true. I look at my own wife and she works from dawn till dusk and she gives and gives and gives. And it really is never done. Because even when she thinks it's finished, in the middle of the night there'll be a, Mom! Seriously? You know, so don't roll your eyes the next time she asks you to do something. Don't huff and puff and drag your feet. Understand that she's had a hard day as well. And just because she's asked you to unload the dishwasher, just because you did it last month, doesn't mean that that gets you off the hook. You have no idea compared to what she's done throughout the day. So understand her as well. So the fourth thing is you can listen to her attentively. This is one I need to work on a lot. Husbands want undivided attention. Kids want undivided attention. What about when mum wants undivided attention? Who's going to be there when mum needs somebody to listen to and pour out her heart to? Are we as quick to drop everything and listen to her so that she can get her tank filled as well? Is that where we're at? Or are we just too busy? We've got what we want. I'm off. Thank you very much. What happens when things go wrong? Who do you turn to? How often have you ran to your mum for a shoulder to cry on or for somebody to listen to you, even though she told you all those things would happen anyway, and you went ahead and did them and they did, you still come back and expect compassion and love and understanding. There's no point in running to Dad, especially if he's watching TV. Your leg could be hanging off. Oh, okay, son. Never mind. He'll more than likely say, go and tell your mum. Yeah, we've all been there. Because mum is just that one that brings us that heart of love and compassion. Not that we shouldn't be as dads as well, but there's just something inherent in a mum that just has that. So listen to her attentively as well. Be concerned about her life. Number 5, help her cheerfully. I add that word on the end, and I mean it, cheerfully. Mums have so much to deal with, it's incredible. So many demands on her from the rest of the family, you know, and we're so quick to, seriously, I'm in the middle of watching my favourite show. What do you mean you need some help? We do it too often. We want to be able to help her cheerfully. Let her know that it's not a chore, it's a, yeah, of course, I'd love to help you. When was the last time you thought about doing something without your mum even asking you? Cleaning your bedroom, and mum didn't even ask you to do it. I know that's probably a bit beyond some of us, but probably not for all of us. When was the last time you looked for ways to bless her without her even asking? She's taken care of you all of your life. So don't do it as a favour. Do it to honour her and bless her. Number 6, the last one. Appreciate her always. You know, little things mean a lot. She needs to know that she's loved and valued. Value what she's done for you. Think about what she's done for you. And I can tell you, no matter how much you can think of, there is way more behind the scenes that you don't know about. A teacher put a question to little James at school in a maths class, and she said, suppose your mum made a cherry pie, James, and there's 10 of you seated at the table, your mum, your dad, and 8 children. How much of the pie would you get? Oh, well, I'd get a 9th. She said, you need to think about that again, James. There's 10 of you. How much pie would you get? She said, don't you know your fractions? Yeah, I know them. But I know my mum even better, and she'd say she didn't want any pie. Because mums are that sacrificial. Of course mum wanted some pie. She just wanted you to have a bigger piece, because that's how much she loves you. A mum wants a call, an invite to come along, to be a part of your family, to know that she's loved and wanted and appreciated as well. Don't assume that you've done enough when she's just given you the best years of her life. She needs to be reminded constantly, not that she's going to be used, but that she's a part of something and she's needed and wanted. And you know what? Sometimes it gets to the point where they can't do that physically anymore. But they'll pray for you and they want to be involved in your lives. And I know when my mum got a bit older and she became unwell, the one thing she could do was she would pray. And I know that she would pray her heart out for us. And she was a prayer warrior, and I know so many answers to prayer in my own life came because I know my mum was praying for me. So involve her, honor her, make her feel valuable, because she really is. I want to end with a story that I actually found very unbelievable at first. When I first read it, I'm like, that cannot be true. And so I actually researched it, and it is true. This is documented history, and I'm still kind of struggling to get my head around that this could actually happen. In October 1829, Peter Ridgely boarded a sailing ship from Sydney, Australia to Collier Bay in Newfoundland. A long journey back in those days by sailing ship. However, on the fourth day out, they hit some reefs, ripped the bottom out of the boat, and the boat sank. All 21 crew, including Peter Ridgely, managed to make it to a rock nearby and huddled together for 3 days before another ship, the Swiftsure, came along and actually picked them up and rescued them. Not a single life lost after 3 days at sea. So the Swiftsure continued on its journey, and it ended up being caught in a very powerful uncharted current, and eventually got shipwrecked on some rocks and sank. Peter Ridgely now, he's in 2 shipwrecks, but all of the crew are saved. Another ship comes along, the Governor Ready, which is, again, they've been in the water for hours, but the Governor Ready comes along, picks them up, and the crews of these previous 2 ships. Carries on its journey, but 3 hours later it catches fire and sinks. 3 shipwrecks later, they actually managed to stay afloat for quite a while because they weren't actually in the normal shipping lanes at this point. They'd been blown off course. But then all of a sudden another ship, the Comet, which had also been blown off course, comes along and actually decides to pick them up. But they were a little bit hesitant at this point. that here's the crew of 3 shipwrecked ships and they want to come aboard their ship? Maybe not. But they did. They hesitantly, they took them on board and continued sailing. And 5 days they sailed when a violent storm hit. It's just, yeah, it's really this. It really is true. A violent storm hit and the ship sank. Unbelievable. 4 shipwrecks later. And they were in the water for hours. This was cold water. It was actually shark-infested water. And it was 2 days later that another ship, the Jupiter, actually found them and picked them up. And at this point, not a single life had been lost. It's just absolutely incredible in this kind of scenario that not even 1 life would be lost. 2 days later, the Jupiter hit a reef and sank. It's just mind-boggling that this actually happened. 5 shipwrecks. No lives lost, they're all still at sea, when eventually another ship comes along, a 6th ship called the City of Leeds, sailing from England to Australia, eventually found them and rescued everybody. I think I would be just like, just ignore them, They're not there. It's like, seriously, 5 shipwrecks. After warming up and having some food, Peter Ridgely is actually relaying this story to the ship's captain. Maybe should have asked that before he got on board. And the captain's just amazed that this has actually happened, and they haven't lost a single life at this point. He said, that is just incredible. And Peter Ridgely is so thankful that they've actually picked them up. But I don't know how much hope he would have had at this point. 6 ships later, I mean, it hasn't gone well so far. They were actually about 2 days away from Australia, heading back in the other direction, so he hadn't got very far. And the captain was just, he said, you know what, if there's something, you could do something to repairs if you wouldn't mind. He said, oh, absolutely. He said, I'd do anything. He said, we have an old woman on board. She's very frail, very sick, and very delirious. She's got a fever and she's in and out of consciousness. And she just keeps saying, Lord, let me see my son before I die. And he said, she knows all of us on the crew. She's recognised us. She was okay before she went downhill, and she's blessed us. But she doesn't know you. Would you pretend to be her son and just let her have her dying wish? And he said, oh, absolutely, of course I would. So he goes down to the room where the old lady is, and the ship's doctor takes him down and gives him a few instructions. Just says, she's very frail. We don't know how she might handle this, but just be gentle. She's from Yorkshire in England, and her name is Sarah Ridgely. Peter walked into the room to find his own mum lying in the bed And he could hear her asking, Lord, let me see my son one more time before I die. And he just fell down on his knees and started to weep, because it was his mother that was on her way to Australia to find her son who'd been missing for 15 years because he ran away and joined the Navy. And she'd never heard of him again, and she was trying to get there one more time to see her son. She didn't even know if she would find him. But God answers the prayers of our mums. He really does. And she prayed, and not one life was lost. Not just Peter Ritchley was saved, not one life was lost, because this mum was praying for her son to see her. She actually recovered, which was amazing, because they thought she wouldn't even make the journey to Australia. She lived another 20 years in a house that Peter Ritchley built for her, and he loved on her for the rest of her days. I think that's just an amazing story. As unbelievable as it sounds.